Hi, and welcome to the first part of a new series. So this is something new. Let me explain myself a little. So I've been, I've built, I've got Hopper working on my own board, and I've published how you build one of these, how you get the PCB. But I also like to try and support anybody who's got a kit out there to try and make my stuff work on their kit. So if you get their kit, for example, um, the Benita, um, I've got support for his configuration here. I've also made Hopper work on these 8-bit force retro shields. So it works, Hopper runs on these. I also play nice with Anders Nielsen's 6.5 Ueno. Hopper won't run on this, there's not enough space on it. But you can use the Hopper 6502 assembly toolchain to build, and it's got some I've got some libraries that are really handy, like for the OLED display, etc. So I support this device as well. And so if there's a kit out there that, especially for 6502, I reckon it's worth giving it a go, and that's what this is about. This is Greg's minimalist Europe card bus venture here. He's been at it for a little while. It's very well supported. He's got a lot of documentation. And the motivation behind it was he was going back to his wire wrap days and, liking plugging these together into a backplane. And he really doesn't like the RC 2014 header pin approach to a backplane. And I can understand why, because I did the same kind of thing. My first build, once I got off the breadboard, was I used header pins to stack my little daughter cards on my first 6502, and it's super unreliable. It's not fun to work with this sort of setup at all. So I totally get why he really liked these mechanically sound plugs, and then he spec'd it based on um, on a standard from the past, but just did his own sort of minimal version of it with I don't know what minimal means, like maybe there's less pins or something. Another thing that's interesting about his bus is it's got an MREC and an IO rec, so IO request and memory request. So not very because 6502 doesn't need those, because 6502 IO is memory mapped. But other CPUs do need this, and his first CPU, I think, was the 6809. In this, he's done a few. You can see on, so he's got a 6809, 6502, and I think there's the 63. What is it? Six? I forget what number is the successor to the 6809. Anyhow, I like this idea a lot, and a mechanically sound backplane bus that we can design more boards for. So, I'd do my own boards for this at some point as well, I reckon, for his bus. Another thing that's pretty cool is, so I ordered his kit, and I got, this is the backplane part. His kit is amazing, really well packaged. So like nothing's going to get damaged there. Everything's, it's very well numbered. And it's so nice to get the mechanical parts all from one location, right? So, you get the kit, you build the backplane, and then, you plug it into USB power. There's some other power sources here too, but I'm just using USB for now. And then you turn it on, and it's like, wow, that was exciting. Nothing happened, right? So, not much use on its own. So the next board I built um, was the CPU board. And then, so now you've got a little bit more going on. It feels so solid when you plug it in, it's just, yeah, so solid to plug it in. And then, yeah, he's done very flexible addressing. So The CPLD on the left is the glue logic to decide to drive those signals that he's made up. Like he's synthesized. 6502 doesn't have this like an MREC or an IREC, so he's synthesizing them with that. And then for the 6502 board, it's got this IO bank select here, which is a set of dip switches. So you can tell it. You can decide which memory range you want your IO to be in, and then that'll drive the IO request and memory requests on that. Okay, it comes with, he pre-programs the PLDs by default. Everything's labeled so neatly. Anyway, so it's pre-programmed for an 8K ROM. So I've got an 8K ROM in there, right? So again, you plug it in, you turn it on, nothing happens, right? So how am I going to get this thing to do something interesting? So with the tools I have, I made myself a no-op program. And just by cut and paste, I made myself quite a big no-op program. So if I build that, it's compiling that in the Hopper 6502 assembly toolchain. And then I go out and I see how have I done. Disassemble it. I've got 16 bytes free in my 8K ROM. So I pretty much squeezed the entire 8K ROM full of no-ops. And you can tell if I switch to the, in the EEPROM programmer right at the bottom here, there's 16 FFs before the vectors. So I pretty much filled it up with no-ops. Right, so I want to run through no-ops, and why do we do that? Classic test of the CPU and making sure that your board's actually electrically sound. Just give it a whole string of no-ops to run through, and then spy on the address bus to see if you're counting. If your address is just incrementing. Now, it's tricky to do that here without any, without a probe or tools or oscilloscope or anything. So another board I ordered as part of my first order from him was a prototyping board. And the nice thing about the prototyping board is it's got headers called out for the bus. And then I just hooked up the upper address lines to LEDs. And it's I take his mechanically sound and I put a rubber band into it. Yeah, great. I ruined it. So we plug that in. And it all sits so nicely. It's just so nice the way it sits. And then you go and you go and find the slowest can oscillator you've got, and you plug that in here. Unfortunately, my slowest oscillator is still a megahertz. So if we plug this in again, and then let's just turn that around, and I'll flip the power, and the lights come on. Some of them are not as bright as the others, as in they might be oscillating. And then there's a reset button here. If I hold the reset button, there's a pause. It's got a supervisor for reset, so it has a pause on reset. So during that pause, every time there's different lights in there, right? Which means I'm interrupting it at a different place in the address every time I press this. Still not that cool, right? So at least it's there's no blue smoke and it's not burning, and it seems to be I'm quite happy and nothing's getting hot. Right, but how can I get more? Well, most of us have a smartphone, and if you look in your camera on your smartphone, it might have a slow motion video capture. Mine does, and it's an Android phone, and it's got something called super slow mo, right? And then since I'm recording videos, I've got some video software as well that I can slow it down even more, but you don't really need to. The super slow mo was probably fine. And then it took like 30 seconds of video and made it into 19 minutes of video. And if I play this, you see a repeating pattern. And yeah, it's not a perfect binary count like you'd expect from a no-op counter, but come on, how many frames per second is the video capturing? And yeah, you're only going to get so far. So what I like about it is that you have a sort of a reliable repeating pattern here, as in it is kind of sort of capturing a count. Anyhow, pretty sure it was a neat way of capturing what's going on. If I had a slower CAN oscillator, I'd probably do a better job. But that's about probably as much as I'm going to do for today. And then I'll save building my IO card for tomorrow. And at that point, I'll have a serial port. And I've spent a little bit of effort in the last few days making Hopper work properly on 8K again. So there's an 8K minimalist Hopper, and it also includes the I2C driver, which is pretty cool. So hopefully next time I check in on this project, I'll have a serial connection, and then we'll be able to really see if it's working or not. And then what I'll do after that is publish how you configure and get Hopper running on this board that you can go and buy from his, so you can go and buy it from his Tindy store and order the parts. So yeah, most of the mechanical parts come with these boards. So he shows you in the pictures what you're going to get with them. So you're going to get all these bits and pieces, for example. So you got audio and sockets and chips, and that's about it. And some passives. And I didn't find any of it particularly hard to source. I like this RAM chip. Like if I'd known this RAM chip existed before I built my board, I would have used it. It's a really fast RAM chip, like 15 nanosecond, I believe, 1.5. Anyhow, thank you for watching, and come and check in again when I've got my serial port up and running.